Olá, boa tarde. How's everybody? Well, the time has finally come for me to do the cleaning of the garden. To start it, actually. There's a lot to do here because if you watched any of my earlier videos, you know that I went through a period of disappointment and fed up with the garden. But apparently this happens in the summer to many gardeners. So I'm no different. So it was too hot to be out here and I neglected the garden. I was doing busy with other stuff. So today we have a grey sky, and which is welcome in some ways because I got quite a lot of work to do. So I'm going to start with the garden beds. Excuse me about that quick turn. And then I'll do the orchard, and I will probably do a video for every one of those so you can accompany my progress. One of the things that really helped get over this impasse of being negative about working the garden. First of all, it's a lot of work to be done because I neglected it. But writing a list of to-dos, as many people have recommended, many of you recommended, was a really good idea. I wrote the list of all the stuff that I had to do, and I became more and more motivated to get going. That's number one. And then the other one was I was able to actually plan what I'm going to do with the garden. And that was even more powerful in terms of getting motivation. So I first started with a piece of paper, and I will show you how I've decided to get the gardens done. I'm going to do this bed. I'm going to show you the plan for the bed, and then I'll get to cleaning it, and I'll show you how that progresses. Okay, so this one is what I call veggie bed number one. It is terribly overgrown, and I'm going to have to clean it up here. You can see some of the cayenne peppers are still giving fruit. Some have been drying out, but this is okay. You can still use those. I have another pepper tree buried in here inside the basil. Most of the growth here is because of the basil. I planted very small basil plants in between my tomatoes, the peppers, and the eggplant, the aubergine. And having neglected it, the basil has really grown to unwelcome proportions. I'm going to have to start by taking the basil down, and then I can see some weeds in there. Some of the plants are still, hello there, some of the plants are still giving fruit. The eggplant has been very fruitful, and although I haven't actually been picking the plants, picking the fruit, some of it still gives fruit. They've got a tomato growing here. All my tomatoes ended the season. This is a tomato that I didn't plant. It must have somehow picked up here. Some of the seeds from the tomatoes are going into the compost heap, and I think this is probably what's come out of it. So it is now November, and the tomato is still giving plants. Last season, I had two seasons of tomatoes. I normally string up my tomatoes on the trellis here, and when they're done, I cut them down, replant, and do it again. So I get 2 seasons of tomato plants. But the basil's gone bananas here. I'm gonna have to come and get this fruit out of here before I do anything else. These are looking nice. This one's dried up here. It's no good, but it's been neglected. I don't think I've got any peppers left, any round peppers. Oh, there's one. It's been burnt up. Tiny little thing. It's been burnt up in the sun, but you can see the result of neglect, what happens. So I'm going to clean this out, show you what the bed looks like when it's done, and then I'll show you the plan. Okie dokie. I'm going to get that work done now. I'm not going to film it. I'll show you the results. Well, I'll tell you what, this is day 2 of cleaning up this bed. It's starting to look better, but I've never seen basil grow like this. It's been unbelievable. It's really grown well. I've always had the bed connected up over here to the watering system, so I haven't closed it up. So this bed's been watered on a regular basis, and the basil has totally loved it. I've got one basil plant left which I have to clean up, but before I do, I'm going to take off some cuttings because I use basil cuttings to propagate the plant. So I haven't bought basil plants for a long time. I just propagate them by taking a few cuttings off an existing plant and then getting them to root and then replanting them. So it's quite a simple process, and you can do this with most basil plants. So basically I just take a cutting off like this, take out the bottom leaves, don't need all these. Excuse me. Even these bigger ones I can take out and then pop into the water and wait for it to root. And as soon as it does, it's probably a good idea to cut it just before the knot where the old leaves used to be. Just take them out like that. I don't need the flower, so that can go. And oh, there's another one. There you go. So these will grow roots and become new plants, and you can continuously propagate your basil on an ongoing basis like that. I never have to buy them again. Saves you a fortune and gives you as many plants as you like. There you go, another one. And that's it. Okay, so I've gotten rid of all the overgrown basil plants. I've got a few thick root systems for the basil plants here, which I'm going to have to get rid of. I'm going to replant the new shootings. I'm going to remove these, replant new shootings. In fact, I'm going to have to trim this whole lot down in order to clean up this bed properly. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is get rid of this mulch. This is a sawdust type of mulch which I have here, and I'm slightly concerned that it might be consuming the nitrogen on the soil. But so I'm going to remove the mulch and then amend the soil and then cut back these plants to the right level that I need to do. For example, these pepper plants here have been incredibly fruitful over the entire season. I have gotten, excuse me, a lot of peppers, both cayenne peppers and bell peppers here. So I'm just going to cut these plants back down. I don't think I need to overwinter them because the climate here doesn't require it. And then the eggplants were also very fruitful and they produce throughout the season. So I will get those trimmed down and plant some new ones. But before I do all that, I got to remove the mulch so I can see what I'm doing, because there's a lot of weeds in here. So let's go. Actually, I've changed my mind. Instead of taking out the mulch that I've put on these beds, which is mostly from a very fine wood chip, looks almost like sawdust, but it's wood chip, I'm not going to do it. I tell you why. I'm not going to do it now. I tell you why. I've been very happy with the performance of the beds with the with this type of mulch on it, and the only reason I wanted to take it off is so that I can prepare it for winter. Now the mulch is really useful for me if I use it in the summer because it gets really hot here, but I don't really need it in the winter. However, I don't have to take it all out and put it all in if it's actually benefiting the soil. So I'm going to do a lab test. I'm going to take samples out of these 3 beds. I'm going to send them to the lab and I'm going to see what the soil looks like. I want to know what my nitrogen looks like, what the phosphorus looks like, and what the potassium looks like. Plus I'm going to ask for them about the calcium, iron and magnesium, beg your pardon, so I can make a proper choice about these beds and what I'm going to do with the mulch and how much amending I need to do to the soil. So let me show you what I've done. Let's go to the beds. So I have taken this tool, which I use to make holes for planting the veggies, or for transplanting the veggies, and I've taken samples in strategic places in this bed, So I have a nice mixture of soil from bed number 1. I've done the same thing with bed number 2. This one's got the leeks. Take a sample from here. Got some amazing cabbages coming out here. I've taken 2 samples here, and I've also got beetroot growing on here. And then on the 3rd bed, which is the bed where I grow my beans and my peas, which tend to put nitrogen back in the soil, I've also taken samples from various places, and I'm going to have the soil analyzed, and then based on the results of the analysis, I'll make the call on whether or not I need to change the mulch. So what the lab needs here, it's an agricultural lab, and they do all the testing for free. So I've put the soil from the different beds in 3 different bags. Bag number 1, bag number 2, and bag number 3. So I'll take them off to the laboratory, have them tested, and then I'll make a decision based on the outcome. So I think that's the best thing to do right now, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to post this video so that it doesn't get too long, and when I get the results, I'll let you know what the outcome is. Okay, so the bed's been cleaned out. I've had to take out all the eggplants, the aubergines, because the plants were not in good shape. I'm leaving the pepper plants in here, but I've trimmed them down. I think this is what I did last season. This is their 3rd season, if they lost. I hope they do. There's a couple of ones that are looking a little bit weak. Very, very thin. This is the 1st season here for these 2, but the others are going into their 3rd season, and I hope they do well. The tomatoes are going to be going along the edge there, and then the aubergines or eggplants will go over here. Now that this is done, I can get started on the other beds. So before I wrap up this video, I did promise that I would talk about how I did the planning, and I got remotivated. So I made that list of things I needed to do in the garden, and that was really, really useful because it broke down for me all the things I needed to do into small, manageable chunks. And there's so much to do, and thinking about it all, I was really thinking, oh, where am I going to start? It's just too much. But by breaking it down, I thought, oh, I can do this and I can do that. And I started with the easy tasks first. So I got going. The next thing I did is I started planning the layout of the veggie beds. So I took a drawing of the veggie bed, number 1, and in pencil, and I started trying to put the plants where I wanted to have them. And then I thought, no, this is not going to work. So I tore that one up. I did another one, and I started putting the plants where I wanted them, slightly changed, and then I rubbed something out. And then I remembered, why am I spending time putting stuff on paper if I know PowerPoint? I know PowerPoint because of my profession before I started this, and I decided to use PowerPoint because then I don't have to keep repeating and rubbing out, and so this is how I did it. So the first thing I did is to draw out a brown rectangle to represent the bed, and then I placed all the chives where I wanted them to go. Then I added the 5 varieties of tomatoes. So I've got the ruby cherries, the king tomatoes, the bullhearts, I've got the burlesques, etc. in the line where I'm going to be hanging them on the strings, or letting them grow up the strings. Then after that, I added in the basil, exactly where I wanted them to go in between the tomatoes, because they disguise the tomato smell and keep out the horned worm. After that, I added in the eggplant or the aubergines, and I've got 2 different varieties I'm going to try out this year. I'm probably going to keep some of the ones I already have on the ground because they can survive. Then I added in the peppers, and those are bell peppers, those are the cayennes. I'm also going to be growing some habaneros and jalapenos. So those are in there, and then after that I placed the onions that I'm going to put in this bed. These onions were fantastic last year. They added a lot of protection to these plants, and they grew to an enormous size. So I'm going to do that again. And then after that, I added the lettuce in the open spaces around the entire bed. So I've got them between the chives, I've got them between the peppers and so on. And that's how it worked. I'm going to do a design for each bed, like I've done for veggie bed 1, I'll do for veggie bed 2 and veggie bed 3. And then I'll continue the cleanup, and then I'll show you what it looks like once they are done. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, press the like, hit subscribe, and click the bell button so that you'll be reminded every time there's a new release. Have a good evening. See you at the next video.